wild allegations made about a decade ago by people like Amarji Hillier and some other people at the time.
Mm.
If Hawass really wanted to do something in Giza, there are plenty of excuses he can use whereby he can say this is an official dig, and everything would look like it is official, even though it would be something more than that. That's a technique which has been used for donkey's years in various disciplines, and if he wanted to do that, he could do so. I don't actually, even though he was sponsored, I think Hawass is a person who is more interested in his own fame and in his own name making rather than anything which people like the Casey Foundation would want him to do.
Oh, interesting. In regards to another thing I read about your book, is that mankind is again on the brink of discovering this knowledge in regards to, I guess, what you have been talking about here so far through the use of modern science. And one thing that comes to mind is just in the recent years, I've been reading a lot of terminology that refers to, things like genetic research and string theory and so forth, that this kind of is like our modern quest for the Grail. Is that kind of your take on this too, or what do you mean by that we are discovering this knowledge again with modern science?
Well, yes, I think there is there are various indications that this day and age in which we live in is one of extreme discovery, and we just have to look at our grandparents and see in what world they lived, and the things we are confronted with in our reality today. It's massively changed even over the past 10 years and 20 years and 30 years definitely. So there is this kind of new world coming about, and there were leading lights, in my opinion, a person like Carl Jung. He used terminology of calling it the age of Aquarius. But when he wrote his book about UFOs, he kind of like didn't believe that they were aliens. He believed that they were archetypes, and he believed that they were manifesting themselves in our reality because somehow we either weren't quick enough, or we couldn't do it alone, or anything, or something like that. But in essence, he said, these are archetypes which are manifesting themselves in our reality because we're going on a rapid curve of learning. And whether you like it or not, we will be dragged onto this curve of learning. And it's very similar to theories of which are now becoming a bit too popular about 2012 and Mayan calendars.
Sure. That
somehow this would be the end of the world and that massive things are going to happen and this and that.
Yeah.
We are going through a tremendous amount of change, but even the Mayans never said that the world was going to end in 2012.
Yeah.
But tying it back to what is happening, I've just finished a book which is going to be published in August called The New Pyramid Age, and it's an overview of how our understanding of pyramids in general across the world has been so changing over the past 10 years. And it's people in Egypt like Hawass and Lena who have been contributing locally there. But just what scientists have been able to come up with our understanding of Chichen Itza and other places in Mexico, our understanding of the Inca world, which built pyramids as well, has been changing as well. And it's all happened since roughly 1994, and it's almost as if in 1994 somebody threw a light switch, and all of a sudden everybody is beginning to understand what these pyramids mean in their various settings. And the most intriguing point is that when you look at what a pyramid means in the Mayan civilization, what you think a pyramid means in an Egyptian context, what you think a pyramid means for the Chinese people, what the purpose of the pyramid is in the Inca civilization, they're all the same, and they're all symbolizing points of creation, a point out of this time, a point are linked with fire, which of course the word pyramid is in the Greek word. It's a Greek word which means house of fire, originates from. So it's a massive awakening is probably the best word, and I've kind of like called it the new pyramid age. Not necessarily because we're building them, but because we're beginning to understand them, and we're discovering them left, right, and center. So there is this thing going on, and the one thing which still needs to happen, and the one thing which Egyptologists are so afraid of doing, is looking at the pyramid within a religious context. And once Egyptologists begin to look at the religion and the role of pyramids and why they did them, why they stopped doing them, why they changed some of their deities around, that will be such a massive revelation, because people are fascinated with Egypt, and 99% of the people do not know why there is this fascination with Egypt.
In regards to the pyramid age, are you saying that we are in it, or that we are about to enter into it? And if so, how? I mean, is this like an astrological age, like lasting for what is it, over 2,000 years? Is that what you're saying?
I do think that there are cycles. When you look at ancient Egypt, they believed that there were cycles. They linked it obviously with Sirius. When you look at how it goes, I'm also extremely interested in the Corpus Hermeticum, which was kind of like for the medieval people what they believed ancient Egyptian religion was all about, and the Hermeticum was largely a condensed version of ancient Egyptian religion, made available in a Greek format for Greek people, kind of like a brief synopsis, if you want, a quick introduction. And when that became popular in medieval Europe, people like Bruno and other people before started to identify the year 1600 as a tremendous important date for mankind. And Bruno said that the religion of Egypt would start to flourish again in 1600. Now, it's a very peculiar statement to make, and it's actually Clive Prince, following Temple Revelation. We were just kind of like looking at dates of the ancient Egyptian calendar, what they considered to be their new year, and everybody kind of like knows that there's a certain date in 2000 BC, then there's another one 1,460 years later. Then there is one in 137 or 138 AD, which still caused major commotion in ancient Egypt. Well, the next step is actually 1599, and 1600 is obviously the start of the new era. If there is anything going on, then I would kind of like say, if we are looking at massive timelines, and if we were to look at the Egyptian calendar, then from an Egyptian point of view, we would probably think that it all went downhill until about 138 AD, that it then pretty much stayed very low until about 1600, and that now we are slightly on the uprise again in that ancient Egyptian lore, and spirituality in general is on the up again. But we've got a very long way to go, and when you look at it from a global perspective, you just need to look at the amount of people, billions of people, who are trying to survive, who haven't even got time to consider a spiritual aspect to life.
Sure.
Or we could say that the world is going to go through a major cataclysmic spiritual event in 5 years from now.
Yeah, that's very interesting, because, as you say, as long as this is a spiritual thing in that sense, I mean, this isn't something that has to take many hundreds of years to happen, because it's about I guess attitude, or you know, the more it's not a physical thing in that sense that has to be done. It's a more the approach to people, how they, you know, how we treat each other, and how, you know, how we choose to, I guess, distribute our wealth and so forth, and all of this. But I guess we are now in a scenario where we have another you know, potential threat, I guess, on the rise, which of course is referred to in many cases as the New World Order. I guess a control grid going in instead of a spiritual revolution. I mean, do you see these two as kind of potential paths that we're going to take here?
Well, I think what you're describing is order versus chaos, and it's the basic principle on which ancient Egyptian civilization was founded. Ancient Egyptian civilization was very clear about it. They considered themselves to be order, and everything outside of their borders was considered to be chaos, and chaos was trying to get a grip of ancient Egypt. And when you look at America, that's very much, you know, George Bush's attempt as well. Close off the borders. You know, we are the good guys. Everybody else is evil. If you're not with us, then you're against us, and there really is no other way. That kind of approach is very basic, and to some extent, you know, very clear. When you look at unions like the European Union, their policy towards countries like Israel and Palestine are so complex that, you know, no wonder the Arab world and Israel are completely kind of like not aware of what Europe wants, because what, you know, like, okay, you can do this, but you can't do that. Well, we would like you to do this, but please don't do that. And it is absolutely confusing. So that kind of confusion is something where the ancient Egyptians actually completely hated. They you know, confusion is kind of like similar to the Yoda word of, like, you know, there is no tribe, it's just do or do not. And that kind of basic principle, I think, is something which does need to come about more. Now, you know, you may not like people like George Bush, or you may not like Fox News, but at least you know where you stand with them. You're either against them or you're with them. It's a very simple, you know, you make up your mind, they have made up their minds. And I think from a spiritual point of view, that is actually much better, rather than constantly trying to reach a compromise and trying to quite often not do anything whatsoever and just leave a situation as it is. And what you find is that when there is a serious situation and something seriously goes wrong, it's not so much because somebody has said yes or no, but because for years nobody has said yes or no. So I think, you know, we need to be careful to not just shoot at something which isn't really that important.
Yeah, you're saying that it takes all our energy, all our, you know, all our attention, basically.
Yeah, and, you know, should we really be, you know, kind of like, you know, George Bush is the president of America. Yes, he is influential, but, you know, he doesn't make the decisions as to what I watch on television, and he doesn't make the decisions as to what I eat. If I go out for a drive, he doesn't stop me over in my car saying you can't drive there. Yet there is this basic tendency with people, and we're doing it again here, to kind of like always sit in front of the television and blame what else is going out there, and kind of like, you know, not really taking control of your own life and doing something about life in general in this world. That again is a very basic principle, and it's something which the ancient Egyptians knew, and I think that's probably why their civilization lasted 3,000 years, and you know, not many countries in this day and age go through a period